Through Our Lens,
a cross-cultural look on AI bias.
Hi everyone, I'm Ming Fan from Florida International University, US.
Hello, I'm Luciane Tenani from São Paulo State University, Brazil.
Hi, I'm Yang Yi from Wuhan College of Communication, China.
Welcome to this podcast titled Through Our Lens, where ideas cross borders and voices connect cultures, created by students from China, the United States, and Brazil during our virtual exchange project. This series is the results of 8 weeks of collaboration, creativity, and global discovery.
The students exchanged their perception on linguistic and cultural biases in AI outputs as they engaged in a series of academic activities. Their reflection discoveries shaped the scriptwriting process for each episode, weaving their diverse perspectives into a shared global conversation.
Listen to their personal voices. You will learn more about the AI biases and AI tools' cultural competence across American, Brazilian, and Chinese context.
Now tune in and hear what happens when students around the world come together to uncover the hidden biases of AI and the importance of building strong AI literacy.
Hey guys, welcome to the Cross Ocean Hangout podcast, named Through Our Lens, a cross-culture look on AI bias. Here, students from 3 countries have come together to discuss AI and the ways it represents different cultures and aspects. In today's episode, called When AI Misrepresents Culture, we'll talk about bias within AI. I'm Laura, a student at São Paulo State University here in Brazil. It's an honor to be sharing this space with such incredible culture and people. The cultures we have been prompting have not been so well represented in the image generated by AI, and we'll talk about it. Want to find out more? Stay until the end to find out.
Hi everyone, welcome to Cross Ocean Hangout. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Akira from China. We welcome anyone from any cultural background to join our conversation and become our digital friend.
Hello, my name is Dee and I am from America. Thank you all for joining us today to listen to this discussion about the bias within artificial intelligence. AI is becoming a tool used more frequently across professional and academic settings. By doing this podcast, we hope to help you all learn more about AI to help you successfully navigate it.
Yes, especially for our fellow college students, AI is starting to be integrated into every aspect of our lives.
This is so true. Since we come from different cultures, I actually asked ChatGPT about characteristics of both Chinese and Brazilian culture in order to better understand your cultural backgrounds.
Yes, indeed. AI has become increasingly common not only in schools, but also for answering any questions from anywhere in the world. And this can, sometimes, lead to answers that are not quite expected or accurate. Dee, could you please tell us more about your findings?
Well, the artificial intelligence characterized Chinese culture as having respect for tradition, a polite and indirect style of communication, competitive education, and being collectivist and community-centered. Do you feel like this accurately characterizes Chinese culture?
It's not in a current, but this response sounds to me like an ancient mirror. The aspects AI captured, like respect for tradition and general communication, do reflect the cultural foundations, much like the warm scene of elders sitting around chatting whenever I return to my hometown. Those traditional comforts haven't changed. However, just as a mirror might gather a layer of time's mist, modern China is quietly polishing new brightness onto its surface. Take the competition exam-oriented education you mentioned. Many of my classmates have long moved beyond a single path of rote memorization in the exam competitions. Some join the school esports teams through gaming, no longer 1,000 charging across a single log bridge, but everyone running forward at their own pace. Even my parents now joke, if you can win a gaming competition, that still bring honor to my family.
Wow, that's really interesting. For Brazil, the characteristics presented by the AI included friendliness, community, having a passion for sports, soccer specifically, and being laid back. Do you feel like this accurately represents Brazilian culture?
Yes, in some ways, but it's not just that. As a country with a large territory and history that encompasses immigration from many countries around the world, our culture goes far beyond that. As an example, in the history of our country, European immigration to Brazil began in the 16th century with the Portuguese and intensified in the 19th century. The main groups of immigrants were the Portuguese, Italians, Germans, Spaniards, and Japanese. But not only that, the largest immigrant population in Brazil today are Venezuelans and Haitians, followed by Bolivians, Colombians, and Argentinians. Despite that, the media reinforces that our country just about soccer, our typical foods, and some places, specifically beaches and favelas. In one of our AI interaction activities, we were given a completely generic and impersonal image of our appearance, because of this difficult that not only artificial intelligence, but other countries having representing us. Anyone can be Brazilian. Tall, short, dark-skinned, white. Our country is hardly defined by a standard, and that is what makes it so unique.
I completely understand that. America, Florida specifically, is such a diverse place that, like you said, it cannot be defined by one standard. It is interesting to see how artificial intelligence attempts to present different cultures, which can be helpful in cross-cultural communication such as this.
But sometimes, there may be biases that we don't even notice, leading those unfamiliar with their cultures to form incorrect perceptions. So today, let's discuss the hidden biases that AI might have.
First, artificial intelligence has proven to present biased outputs and seems to have it difficult when it's come to represent cultural identity. We had asked to AI to generate the image of Brazilian woman, and the results reveal significant problems. AI cannot capture the diversity of our identity. A central point was the skin tone. ChatGPT couldn't generate an image of a light-skinned Brazilian woman that was recognized as Brazilian, even presenting image of black women after correcting requests. By the time DeepSeek was able to generate a light-skinned woman, it failed to attribute typical Brazilian traits to her, with some images resembling North America more closely. There was a perception of a stereotype that Brazilian women necessarily need to have no pale skin, as if we couldn't have a white skin tone.
Well, it really hits home. When I use AI to generate a Chinese couple's image, I noticed a bias. No matter dress I input, it always showed the girl as small and delicate, looking up at the tall, protective guy. Even asking for a taller girl, the AI still stuck to the stereotype, like copying from romance dramas. Adding modern details didn't help. It still exaggerated gender-typical features. This shows the training data is full of gender stereotypes. Just like AI used dark skin for Brazilian women, ours use male strong, female soft for couples. In real life, there are equally protective or grow taller couples and same-sex couples with equal protection, but they are set lying in data as not typical. It's like only love fitting certain physical templates is seen as standard romance, and the algorithms make it hard for diverse love to be visible.
I think it is unsurprising that I also encountered some cultural bias when generating an image using AI. I used the AI image generating tool DALL-E and inputted a description of myself, a 19-year-old Haitian American girl with brown eyes and tightly coiled hair. The generated image was a lighter-skinned girl with loosely curled hair. This may reflect the colorism and texturism which is prevalent in both Haitian and American culture. Colorism, or the preference for people with lighter skin tones, is prevalent all throughout media. For example, lighter-skinned actors are often chosen for roles over darker-skinned actors. Texturism, which is a form of discrimination based on how curly a person's hair texture is also prevalent, but more so in cultures where a majority of the population has some variation of curly hair. Tighter curl patterns are often perceived as being unprofessional or messy. Often, colorism and texturism go hand in hand. While no AI tool is inherently biased, it goes to show how the biases present in AI tools are only reflection of the biases within the data sets they are fed. In order to address biases within artificial intelligence, we must first address the root of the issue, which are the biases present within our own society.
Your point that AI bias is essentially a projection of human societal biases really resonated with me. It's true that the data sets we use to train AI are filled with cultural inertia, like feeding it a bunch of social default settings. Aware of curiosity about how AI understands love concepts in different countries, ISA generated a few love stories and noticed a few issues. For example, when writing about workplace romance, it assumed the female lead needs the male lead to solve her work problems. In long-distance relationships, it always included a plot where one party gives up their career to reunite. These scenarios aren't inherently wrong, but they seem to presuppose hidden rules like love requires sacrifice or women need to be rescued. Take my friend's experience. When they asked AI to write a story about a female PhD student and a delivery driver, the AI kept emphasizing, the highly educated woman lacks daily life skills, while the man wins her over with his down-to-earth charm. This mismatched complementarity trope quietly replicates society's stereotypical notions about love across different professions. Sometimes I think that to eliminate these AI biases, we need to input more real-life details. Only then we can give AI-generated content more warmth. I wonder if you've encountered any issues when using AI to create love stories?
That is really interesting. Initially, I had asked ChatGPT to generate a romantic story involving two characters who met by chance and fell in love. In this story, there was nothing that depicted cultural bias, as the story was somewhat vague. It did not have a specific location, but based on the description, it seemed to be an American urban city. The two main characters, Daniel and Claire, unexpectedly meet in a small bookstore while it is raining outside. They spend hours talking to each other, and then Daniel asks Claire to go get coffee with him. The story ends with Claire accepting the invitation to the date. This is a very typical love story, at least in American culture. However, I wanted to explore how the AI would present different elements within a love story based on changes I made to the prompt. So I prompted the AI to create the same love story, but this time it would take place between a young African American couple. There were certainly some biases in this version. For example, it specified that the girl in the story was raised by a single mother, which reflects a negative stereotype about African American family dynamics. Whereas when I simply asked for a love story without specifying race, there was no mention of family dynamic. There were many other instances where ChatGPT pushed stereotypes and presented an overgeneralized overview of African American culture.
In the letter from the Brazilian couple, we couldn't help but notice the presence of those often mentioned elements of Brazilian culture, like samba, carnival, and soccer. Unfortunately, when AI uses to generate aspects of our country, the response tends to feel superficial and does not really sound like a love letter written by a Brazilian. We think a country's culture is way deeper than just its labels, the things that first come to mind about it.
Interesting observation. Another area where there is bias within AI is how it represents different cultures. Artificial intelligence has the ability to shape or distort cultural representation in global context, so it is important for information about culture to be accurate. When asked to describe American cultures, there were many misrepresentations that reflected the bias ingrained in the AI. For example, individualism was stated as being a core value. However, due to America's diversity because of its large immigrant population, this is not really a shared core value. For many groups of people in America, there is an emphasis on commitment to family and community. Other aspects of the AI's response reflect an overgeneralization of American culture, such as the emphasis on fast food as being a part of everyday life, which reflects a negative stereotype that most Americans eat a very unhealthy diet. There was also much bias when asked to present a visual representation of American culture. It mainly presented white Americans in a very urban city surrounded by fast food. This again pushes an unhealthy stereotype of American culture and shows a lack of cultural representation for non-white Americans. While it did include icons important to American culture, such as the Statue of Liberty and the flag, the overall image lacks cultural nuance.
Yes, I feel the same way. Dee mentioned AI's labeling of individualism, which makes me think about how the concept of collectivism in Chinese culture is often misread by data. For example, when I input Chinese workplace decision-making, AI always generates a scenario where leadership authority is supreme and employees obey unconditionally. The distributed collaboration of collective intelligence is almost non-existent in AI's presuppositions. We are trapped in data's collectivist formula. Dee also mentioned that AI often uses fast food to represent American life, which reminds me of AI's data stereotypes about Chinese families. When I input Chinese New Year family conversation, AI always generates pressuring to get married and encouraging civil service exam. But real Chinese families have already redefined awkward intergenerational communication in the short video era. My dad sends me vlog of him learning to cut window paper cuts via WeChat. And my mom asked me to teach her how to edit videos for her favorite singer. Behind this bias is a one-dimensional extraction of Confucian families' values in data. It only sees the traditional pressure of filial piety, but ignores the new form of kinship among Generation Z. We're experiencing AI's traditional filtering of Chinese families. These ongoing cultural evolutions haven't yet been written into AI's Chinese family script.
We had almost the same interpretation when we asked ChatGPT to describe Brazilian culture. While it did mention some correct and interesting points, the information was very shallow and superficial. For example, it talked about how our culture reflects European immigration and indigenous influence of our territory, but then returns to the main point that our cuisine is based on feijoada, pão de queijo, and acarajé. Even though Brazilian cuisine is one of the most acclaimed in the world and we have one of the largest varieties of tropical fruits on our national territory. When we talk about literature, it didn't mention the name of a single one of our writers, and the only well-known work that's cited by AI was Oscar Niemeyer. Lastly, it also says that Brazil is known for hospitality and friendliness, which is indeed true to some extent, but that does not mean all Brazilians will act the same way toward foreigners. It also fails to mention that Brazil can be a difficult place for immigrants who have no prior knowledge about the country and that it can be somewhat violent in certain aspects.
AI bias is essentially a data reflection of human societal prejudice. It automatically replicates our cultural stereotypes and inertial thinking, such as assuming certain behaviors for specific professions or genders, or oversimplifying entire groups with labels. To reduce such bias, we can't rely solely on technology. We need to actively input more diverse real-life scenarios into AI. For example, how different generations communicated, or how young people break traditional modes. This non-standardized data will help AI gradually understand that culture isn't a set of black and white labels, but the living, everyday experiences of real people.
Artificial intelligence presents an opportunity for deeper cross-cultural understanding as it can generate information about the social, economic, and political aspects within certain cultures. As AI continues to gain popularity in education, workplaces, and social media platforms, it is becoming an integral tool in shaping how cultures are represented. It is important that AI does not push negative stereotypes about a culture by presenting biased information that favors one social, political, or economic class over another.
Yes! As generative AI continues its rapid evolution, a critical, informed, and ethical approach is essential to identify how far its outputs deviate from the truth. By embracing experiential learning, fostering critical analysis of AI-generated content, and maintaining transparency in research practices, we can navigate the generative AI landscape in a responsible and impactful manner. After all this discussion of several topics, we can say that we have learned a lot and broadened our understanding of how AI interacts, based on what is requested. I want to thank all my fellow participants here, and thank you to everyone who listened in our podcast episode, When AI Misrepresents Culture.
I'm so glad to have had such an enjoyable discussion about AI bias with everyone today on Cross Ocean Hangout. It really made me realize how cross-cultural exchanges can bring about so many new insights. Looking forward to our next interaction.
Thank you both for this insightful discussion, and a big thanks to our listeners for tuning into this cross-cultural conversation. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.
This episode was created by D. Laurent, Deborah Ruiz,
And by Clícia Montesino Bueno, Júlia Furlan Pereira, Laura de Assis Coelho, Raquel Rissan.
And by 王晴庆、朱静文、徐永月、吉少璇、妙莹。
Thank you for listening to this episode. Comments can be sent to luciani.tanani@unesp.br, mifang@fiu.edu, and yangyi @whmc.edu.cn.
Special thanks to Roma Luborin from the Laboratory of Phonetics at Unesp for the technical support on recording audios and podcast edition.
We also appreciate the contribution and support of Dr. Wen Fang, Ms. Fu Yifan, and Ms. Wu Ziyan from Wuhan College of Communication.
Through Our Lens, a cross-cultural look on AI bias.